See, the financial institutions that would be established within Port City would be governed, regulated under the Banking Act of 1988 of Sri Lanka. So the regulator for all financial institutions is Central Bank of Sri Lanka. So all the financial institutions in the Port City would be regulated by the Central Bank of Sri Lanka.
The whole Port City itself?
Yes. See, within Port City, only the offshore units of the banks that can be set up. So Part 4 of the Banking Act discusses the offshore banking, and it will be governed by the same law. However, with suitable amendments captured in the proposed Port City Economic Commission Bill. Most provisions are a mirror of the Part 4 of the Banking Act. Some amendments actually relates to the Commission really playing a facilitator role as a single window investment facilitator. So Commission kind of plays a role in between the regulator and the applicant or the bank that wishes to set up in Port City. Those are the only amendments, but other than that, most provisions of the Banking Act remains. According to the proposed bill, yes, it is appointed by the President.
Is there any criteria that the Commission members should have?
Yes, the bill it can be a local or a foreign, but it very clearly says the Commission members should have the adequate experience and expertise in field of investment, legal, financial services, accounting, engineering, and few others that they need to be competent in those areas.
That's it. Nationality is immaterial.
As per the proposed bill, it is.
Yes.
It can be a local or foreign.
So, does anybody propose the paper going to the Commission, or
I think it would have.
do you all propose it, like just check Port City?
No, we do not have such a privilege. Yeah, so it will be appointed by His Excellency the President himself.
5 to 7 members.
5 to 7 members. Yeah.
Moving on, what is the...
And we hope actually to that question that, see, the law is good as its implementation agency, right? So the Commission is entrusted to manage, regulate all activities within Port City, and obviously once the bill is enacted in Parliament, Commission will have to implement it, and we hope that it will be housed with the competent people to take it forward. Sri Lankan government's role, see, as it is, the government of Sri Lanka owns the land. That is the 269 hectares of land. Government owns the land. So they are the landlord in Port City. There is a certain portion of land, about 43%, about 116 hectares, given to the project company on a 99-year lease. It's a leasehold right. For every transaction involving land, that is leases, government of Sri Lanka is a party to it. Even on the leasehold rights that the project company has got, when we identify a third-party investor, once we surrender our leasehold right, always the government of Sri Lanka is the lessor. For us to surrender in the leasehold right, obviously we get the consideration for that plot of land, but government of Sri Lanka is always a party to a lease agreement within Port City. There is certainly interest, but the missing piece have been the required laws and regulations, i.e. the missing piece has been the proposed the bill, the Colombo Economic Commission Bill, Port City Economic Commission Bill. So that was the missing piece. So there is interest, and obviously now COVID is limiting our travel plans. We initially planned to launch the Port City Overseas in 2020 World City Summit in Singapore. That got postponed. Hopefully, depending on how COVID spans out, we wish to really take part in that. Hopefully next year. And we have also lined up few other marketing activities, including road shows. So once the bill is enacted, we will aggressively look to market Port City. One of the first investments is by a local a conglomerate. It's a joint venture between us and this local company to put up the first vertical tower, which is called the Colombo International Financial Center tower, as a joint venture partner with a $450 million investment. Is the phase one of that, and we hope to break ground for that investment before end of the year.
I see. So this was done without the law, with the bill.
Yeah, so what happened was, now as the project company, we have invested $1.4 billion for the reclamation and all the internal infrastructure. That's a commitment. Of that, $1 billion have been invested so far. Post-COVID, I shouldn't say post-COVID, during this challenging environment, we have also further committed another investment of $1 billion to develop vertical towers, or vertical development. So this is phase one of that.
So right now you have only that particular tower as a...
That is a commitment, but there is a lot of interest for Marina and the Marina plots. There is a lot of interest. Marina Hotel, there's a hotel next to the Marina, and there are a few residential plots in the Marina district. So there is a lot of interest on them, on those plots, and I think as I said before, probably the law is the missing piece for us to finalize those. And also there is a lot of interest on the international school plot and also the international hospital plot. And the convention center plot, we are actually discussing with the government to see whether we can jointly develop that. As you would know, MICE tourism is quite important, and that will create that footfall that is required to create a very vibrant business district or a business very vibrant city in Port City.
Yeah. You do have one in Hamba. Moving on, is there a price for purchase?
No, see, Shanti, it depends on the use of that plot, right? We have 74 marketable plots with varying uses. Some very low rises, residential villas, even villas we have pure office office buildings, allocated plots, mixed use. For recreational activities, there are different plots. So the price really varies depending on the use, depending on the height restrictions, etc. But what I can tell you is, generally on average, it will not be too different to existing prices in Colombo 1 and 2. But the idea here is, we have 178 hectares of marketable land. We need to see development really happening. So we really need large investors, developers to show interest, so that we can, obviously, that is something that we can negotiate and agree upon, and favorable terms, including you can discuss all those terms with us. The idea, as I said, the objective is to really, we need to see construction, development happening in Port City.
So this financial center is in the government part of the...
No, so the division of land between the government of Sri Lanka and the project company, it is scattered everywhere actually. So there are 74 plots. It's not like this half is project company and is government of Sri Lanka. So it's scattered everywhere. So government also has plots within the financial district zone of the Port City.
This particular project is a joint venture.
The first vertical is a joint venture with a local company, yes.
That has been signed and sealed?
Not yet. Obviously, once the law is enacted, we will sign that or definitive agreement. It is a framework agreement. It's binding. It's a binding agreement. As I said, the missing piece has been the law. Once the law is enacted, we will enter into a very definitive agreement shortly, actually. See, Colombo, so in companies who will operate in Port City are offshore companies. Offshore companies means their earnings are in foreign currency in return for services provided within Port City or overseas. Now, Colombo Stock Exchange, CSE, have been trying to establish a multi-currency board for some time. The biggest challenge, I think, had been that the restrictions on movement of currency or exchange control restrictions have kind of challenged them to have a multi-currency board. Port City, once the bill is passed, is envisaged as a offshore destination, and currency of transaction is any designated foreign currency other than LKR. So ideally, CSC really can have their multi-currency board under the new Port City law and attract some of these regional MNCs, multinational companies, to list within Port City exchange. I guess it is also important that, and we have had some initial discussions. I think Colombo Stock Exchange is also quite keen to kind of have their multi-currency board. At the same time, it is important that the Colombo, because the destination appeal is quite important for regional companies to come and list, right? So for that, even Colombo Stock Exchange may have to partner with another exchange in the region and probably establish in Port City. We hope that will happen because of the currency. Because if you the whole idea of listing is you are trying to raise capital, right? So these companies are earning in foreign currency, so they would look to raise debt or equity capital in foreign currency. At the moment, that is not permitted under the laws of the Colombo Stock Exchange. So, as I said, Ashanti, before, it will be regulated under the Banking Act,
yes,
but with few amendments to suit the requirement within Port City, because we expect very sophisticated financial products and services would be issued within Port City by the financial institution that will set up. So it's much more sophisticated compared to what we envisage in the mainland. So for that matter, the intervention of a higher authority intervention is there than the bank supervision, central bank supervision division. So this is envisaged the monetary board will intervene, and should they require, the law provides that should they require, they can request for any information and clarify any issues that they have with potential financial institutions that will set up in Port City.
So, again, they won't be coming under the bank supervision but the monetary board.
Yes, at the higher authority, because the financial services will be much more sophisticated. We expect it to be much more sophisticated. So hence the monetary board. But monetary board may decide again to delegate that to the bank supervision department. But the law clearly says that the monetary board has a jurisdiction.
They have to approve of it.
Of course, all.
Setting up of the bank.
Finally, the license to set up a bank would be issued under the laws of Sri Lanka, which is the Banking Act.
Okay.
And there's a procedure where the finance minister has to obviously finally approve, and monetary board has to approve as well. So that process will follow. It's just that the commission will really play a facilitator role, as I said, as the single window investment facilitator. No, so in the proposed bill, there is a international arbitration center to hear commercial disputes, and that international arbitration center would be governed under the Arbitration Act of 1995, number 11 of 1995 in Sri Lanka. So it will be governed by that law, and the international arbitration center can adopt any other international standard rules and procedures followed in arbitration, in international arbitration. So, for instance, United Nations Commission of International Trade Law is one of the internationally recognized arbitration procedures rules. This International Arbitration Center, which will be set up in Port City under the laws of Sri Lanka, can adopt some of those internationally best practice rules, procedures to hear arbitration.
They talk about forced arbitration. Is this true? In the law?
Let me not try to. So the idea here really is, Ashanti, for anybody who is doing business within Port City to give an alternate, much faster and efficient solution if they have any commercial disputes. That's why there's an arbitration center. But my thinking is, obviously it should not restrict anybody having to go to courts. That right should be there. So if the law forces such an arbitration, I'm sure once the Supreme Court evaluates and give their determination, there can be certain amendments to reflect that.
If there are amendments that the Supreme Court will need to go back to the drawing board again for a bit, right?
No, it's not.
A bit of time.
No. I think amendments have been already proposed by the Attorney General's Department.
Okay.
So the Supreme Court will deliberate on those, and those will go as the committee stage amendments in Parliament. So even now during construction we have somewhere between 1500 to 1800 staff workers on site. At the moment I think it's about 1500. Of that about 1300 are Sri Lankans. Rest are Chinese, mostly Chinese. So this 83,000, actually it's 83,000 to probably about 130,000 jobs is what we are envisaging. It all depends how well Sri Lanka can position to attract businesses to really come and set up in Port City. So depending on how successful we are as a regional business hub, if we can entice and attract some of these global brands to come and set up in Port City and make Port City their regional headquarters, those would really pave the way for a lot of opportunities for local job creation, and also to somewhat limit skilled and professionals actually emigrating out of Sri Lanka. So brain drain is a huge issue, as you know. About 100,000 skilled workers, of that about 20-25,000 professionals emigrate every year. So what we hope is that by creating Port City includes obviously the business friendly laws, regulations, would create that impetus that is required for us to really position Colombo as a regional hub for businesses, and hopefully we can retain some of those talent in Sri Lanka. And also there are non-resident Sri Lankans who are willing to return, provided the right economic environment is created. So for the next generation of the youth, the thinking here is you don't have to go to Singapore or London or Dubai or Hong Kong for you to work for a multinational company and earn in any foreign currency. You can actually now do that in your backyard. Correct. That's really the idea behind it.